by county and in the United States, and in the top 10 are three of the top 10 are in Texas, which is where I am, by the way, Birdie. I'm in the Dallas
Ah,
area.
right, okay.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. It's like you turn on the news here, and all it is just like election. Everyone's like, and people are calling in and saying, "Why isn't it over yet?"
Right. Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
My
I don't
under
know. Yeah,
my understanding is that I mean, obviously, like a combination of the fact that we've had a higher voter turnout than like ever in history
it's
this year.
incredible.
Yeah, and the precautionary measures that have been taken for coronavirus have slowed down the process, which is actually probably a good thing, you know.
Yeah,
Um, and then just the sheer number of mail-in ballots is also like it's like unbelievable. Um,
yeah.
like
I,
like
I, I,
sorry.
I don't know. I just think it's insane. Like, it was so tight for a while, but it just means that there's like hundreds of millions of people vote. I just think, regardless of who they vote, I think that's amazing. I think that's brilliant. You know, if only we could get people that are like as motivated for good or bad reasons as has happened in America. At least England would be very different because people would be like a bit more proactive about it. Because I think our election system is very similar,
Yeah.
um, where it's not just like a majority thing. It's like like county majority, first past the post, thresholds, and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something my wife and I talk a lot about I don't know if what you guys call it, but the electoral college here and how it's not based on the popular vote, but just like based on the like if a state is won, then it gets a certain amount of electoral votes for the
Exactly.
candidate. But you have a state like Texas, which uh, it wasn't a close election by any means in Texas. I don't think it was just we thought for a minute it would be, but you consider like you know some of the states that have like in the Midwest that don't have a large population, but they get a combined total of like a lot of electoral votes. And then you have a state like Texas, which has 38 electoral votes, which is more than like like the Midwest, much of the Midwest combined. And there were 5.2 million people in Texas voted for Biden, and 5.8 million people in Texas voted for Trump. And so, that's like 38 of those votes go towards Trump. And yet
Right.
the difference, it was like 46% to 52%. And so
Yeah.
it's like sort of
Exactly.
this like yeah.
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 So it's like a mini election within itself, isn't it? Really.
It
That's
is.
kind
Yeah.
of that's kind of like how the English system works, except we we don't have as defined sort of like states and stuff. We got like counties, and then within those we have like areas, and we have like sub counties and districts. So it's like that, but with extra layers piled on top of everything else. So even if you can have all of the districts, like if the majority is in a certain different direction, it will still go in the other direction.
Oh gosh.
It's crazy. So it's
Yeah.
thanks. It's not something ever. But yeah,
Well, watch it.
but it just keeps on going. And like, I was the last English election here. I was living in Tokyo, and it didn't go the way I want. And I think Noah can attest to that. I was very upset that night. I
You
was
are.
very sad.
I
Oh my
remember
god.
I remember that election. We don't get coverage. I think that the United States is kind of, I don't want to say egocentric necessarily, but it's so big and has so many things going on that we kind of take our own spotlight, and so we don't hear a lot about the rest of the world because we're so busy talking about ourselves. And so like and so but yeah, like every once in a while stories will leak through into national news if it's something really big, and yeah, that was the like your election was one of those things. So
Hmm.
but
It isn't.
Well,
yeah.
maybe, sorry to interrupt, but Olivia and Australian Bertie is having trouble joining. But
Oh
Olivia, I don't know.
no.
But we will start just three of us. Well, we've already started. maybe introduce a little bit. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Welcome to Global Community Byron Bay live stream of World COVID-19 Report live. Yay! We are having a bit of a internet connection trouble with some other members, but they will come in later, hopefully. But I'm Noah from Japan, the founder of Global Community Byron Bay. And this is Bertie from England.
Hello.
And this is Mark from America.
Hello.
Yes. And we will wait for other members coming, but for now we will just start the talk of how the situations are currently in their countries. So maybe we can start from lockdown England party.
England lockdown. Okay.
Wait, one moment, buddy. Actually, sorry. Olivia just came in, so I think she will, appear. But
oh, there's someone on mute.
Yeah, she's on mute. Hi, Olivia.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
6 a.m., hey?
Yeah, but I'm surprisingly well. I woke up naturally, actually. I was telling my body last night, this morning, I was like, okay, Olivia, I trust you. You can wake up for 6 a.m. You can do this. And then I woke up like maybe 50 minutes naturally. The cat was meowing and everything. And I was like, oh. And then my alarm went off and I was like, oh, I'm awake this time.
No problem. So everyone, this is Olivia from Canada. Yay, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were just saying maybe we can just start one by one to inform roughly about what's happening in your country. But we could start with party lockdown England because they went full lockdown 2 days ago, was it?
Yeah, so Lockdown 2 is back.
Lockdown 2,
yeah. It's the sequel. Yeah, so the first lockdown was from March until about June. I came back from Japan at the end of March into a very different country. There's no one on the road. There's nothing happening. For me, personally, it was lovely. It's nice because I get to sort of walk around and everything's empty and it's nice and quiet. So yeah, everyone's trying to get used to this new kind of reality, isn't it? And I think the same can be said for like America and Canada. We're not used to wearing face masks at all, and it took everyone a very long time to get used to it because at least where I'm from in sort of England and everything, if you have a face mask or you have a face covering and you go into like a shop or like a bank or anything, it means you're a criminal or you're going to do something wrong, you know. And there's this knee-jerk reaction that everyone has, which is so seeing people get used to wearing them is interesting. And then you have local people making maybe handmade masks like Sai-chan did, with the lovely thing. Loads of people are doing those. And it's like, let's make them pretty, and everyone's like, I don't like this. So, but it's just, I don't know, in my opinion anyway, English people are very stubborn, and even if it's a virus, they're still going to go to the supermarket and they're going to stand too close to each other and they're going to get angry and they're going to be like, and so it kind of around about April, May, things kind of leveled, which was nice. And everyone was quite happy not working for a long time. Everyone was very happy with that. And then, and then over the summer, things just kind of got worse again due to lots of reasons, government incompetence and people probably being selfish and just generally lack of preparation and lots of reasons. And it's gotten so bad that we have to go into another strong lockdown. So everyone who doesn't have to go to work, so everyone that needs to work from home, so maybe if they have a job in IT, or I don't know, they like our sales maybe, or like anything to do with the internet, they can stay home. But anything like a cafe or a restaurant or a bar, it's all closed completely. So, but I mean, because I work in construction, I'm not allowed to have time off. So,
Oh,
this is my weekend, and then I go back to work, and then there's nobody there. So it's again, it's all right, easy money.
but is it like but you get to work, but if you don't get to work, what happens? Like, you get financial support from the government, like 80% or no?
Yes and no, sometimes. So
Sometimes.
yeah. So if you have, again, this might be difficult for Japanese listeners with English.
Right,
So if you have like a contract, so if you have a contract with your job, or what's Japanese, keiyaku, I think.
Yeah,
yeah. So if you have that, your employer is allowed to, is given money by the government to give you 80% of your salary. So like you said. But if you don't have a contract and you are what we say casual worker, or like you're not fixed or part-time, you don't get money.
Oh, really? Oh, that'd be hard.
And so you have government like job, unemployed support, but it's very, very low and does not cover much. So a lot of people are in a lot of trouble.
Is that? Sorry, but you're covered because you're working.
Yeah, that, and I'm very lucky that my parents are willing to let me live in their house. So
yeah, but is that same in Canada and America? By the way, like you don't get financial support, no?
Do you want to start, Mark, or?
I don't know if I have a lot to say about it, because there is I think that the government is supporting the businesses, but not necessarily the employees directly. So it's probably a similar situation to what Bertie describes. The workers who are part-time, who are self-employed or contractual labor, it's just, if you don't work, you don't get paid. The government has issued, I think, now they've issued 2 like relief checks that you can apply for as an individual, but I don't think it's a real substantial amount of money. I think it's like just maybe barely enough to get by, if that. But for me, I don't know if I qualified, because I'm self-employed, and so with what I do, I just kind of fend for myself, most of my friends have still been working, so I think that the people who have been hit the most have been like service industry workers, restaurant employees, hotel employees, and people like that. So I'd have to ask them to know more detail than that.
Yeah, it's different. What about Canada, Olivia?
So we do have like a similar system where we have something special called SERB. So no, not SERB, but CERB. So basically, it is this emergency fund where the government, they give you a certain amount of money quickly when the pandemic hit. Like the very first 3 weeks, I got like $2,000 immediately. And then that kept going for 28 weeks. So literally every month I had like almost like $2,000 coming in the bank. But I would have to probably repay some of it next tax year. So when I pay tax in April. Is it April? No, like March and April. But like we got a substantial amount of money for me anyways, because I don't have a lot to pay, like for rent and food and everything. Like I'm really good. Like I don't have to pay that much. So I was able to actually save up a lot personally.
Oh, good.
So right now it's stopped, but now people are kind of freaking out because Canada's really big. So I'm just gonna put west and east. So the eastern part of the country, so like where French people speak, like where my family lives, people are much more stubborn. So cases are pretty high there. So they closed a lot of the places there temporarily again. But where I live in Vancouver in the west, I guess people are more relaxed and they're probably more able to like understand and be like, okay, like we can go with the flow. So like we're still okay out here. Like we haven't closed anything. We haven't really, but I think things are a lot more slower again because now numbers are up. But surprisingly though, like I still see people everywhere still out here. So
really?
I guess. But so I don't know what the government is doing right now about money because I think like things have stopped. And the thing too is it's the same thing. Like if you're not employed, you don't get it, I don't think. But there's also other systems where like you have employment insurance. So what that is if you don't work, you still get some money, I think. But it's not substantial enough though, like to live, especially if you live in the city where it's crazy ridiculous the rent. And if you're unlucky, you have to pay like $1,700 a month of rent. So, you know, but otherwise, like there is ways. But yeah, and personally, I decided to quit my job because I was making maybe 4 hours a week. And I was like, I'm spend more when I go out to work than if I stayed home and if I made my own money here. So I'm setting up that I'm teaching English, stuff like that. Yeah, and French too. So I'm like, and I wanted to do that for a long time now since like the real like middle of the pandemic, like and when everything hit in March. So I was like, well, you know, I loved staying at home. So like, why don't I just stay at home and not have to worry about me getting sick, get other people sick? Because I know I'm gonna be fine, but I don't know about the other people. So I decided to quit. So so money funds and everything, like Canada's kind of like we're not gonna really close down, but we're kind of thinking about it. But like it's just more the eastern part of the country that's kind of screwed right now. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Well, that's cool that you teach English now there. That's what you are doing in Japan. Olivia was in Tokyo or Japan, 2018. Was it 2018?
Yeah, from 2018. Yeah, I came in April. Yeah, 2018.
And stayed 1 year. Was it 1 year?
Yeah.
Yeah, teaching English to Japanese people sometimes and working at the restaurant.
Good time.
Good time. Yeah, like imagine if you are in Japan working holiday now, you wouldn't be able to go anywhere.
Oh God. I came at the right time, right at the right time.
Yeah, Bertie or England Bertie was just on the verge of getting out from the mess because he left March this year, so right before. And Bertie, Australia, how's going? You are on mute, but finally you were able to come inside to the chat room.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, just problems with Zoom.
Computer.
An increasingly controversial platform, so I had to.
Can you increase your microphone a little bit, the volume, please, if possible?
I don't know if I can. I will. I won't stick around too long because I'll keep John awake because I didn't think about the time. but it's late.
Oh,
And
it is late. Because in Australia it's now like 12.
12:22 a.m. I'm
Yay.
in Brisbane, Australia.
Good. How's Brisbane, the situation?
It's very good, and
Good.
we just had a state election,
Hmm.
which is interesting, happening at the same time as the American presidential election. But
Yeah.
it was a state level election,
Hmm.
so that's one level lower than your national election. But it was clear that the people in Queensland voted to keep the current state government. That government kept us safe from corona.
What was that? Sorry, can you say that again?
The state government kept our state safe from corona this year.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So we just had the election on Halloween. So on Halloween, the election day, and
Yeah.
people in Queensland here voted to keep the same government. But also, that government has increased its number of seats, so that government is even more popular because the current government was really good at keeping corona out, and there has been a closed border between my state, Queensland, and the lower state, New South Wales. Lots of people in the media were complaining, saying, "Oh, this is so terrible. It's all bad. The border's closed. It's bad for business." Like they were very aggressive, very, very negative. And we understand it's really hard for people. It's not easy. But there was so much complaining and so much negative media about closing the border. And they said, "Oh, this government, they're going to lose the election. Everyone hates them. Closing the border is awful." And Queensland people voted and they love this government and they want them to stay because they kept us safe and healthy.
Many countries are having political issues.
Yeah.
Big time.
It's not only America.
Well, what we saw in the media, like often you get a flood of media and people say things on TV and it's the only thing you ever hear. But when people vote, you understand what people are thinking.
Interesting. But at least the virus issue is kind of okay. Kind of okay.
In Queensland, it is really good. We haven't had any cases for weeks. One cluster that was frightening a few weeks back, maybe 2 months, because young women who lived in Queensland went to Melbourne in the south and they went to some parties and
that one.
yeah, allegedly stole some designer handbags. There's some crazy story there. I don't know what the truth is, but it has been said that they went and they stole handbags and they didn't tell the truth about their quarantine and they came back to this state and a cluster happened. So a number of people in the community got coronavirus. The government really tightly controlled it and it stopped. So that's
she was the famous story.
Yeah, it sounds like a manga or something, right? It doesn't sound like real.
Strange. But no, it's very good. But lockdown is so now lockdown country is only England, was it? Not America, not Canada, not Australia. No, just you, England.
Yeah, we're ahead of it. We're ahead of the world. We're dragging everyone down with us. That's what we like to do.
That's crazy.
But I think all other countries are still following self-isolation rules and the social distancing and stuff. But I think this is just one of the it's supposed to be harder. But to be honest, I was doing some training this week on doing driving machines, and I was going to and from the training center, which is just down my street, and it's like no change. There's just cars everywhere, kids going to school, so the schools are still open. We're having 500 people die every day from coronavirus.
Really? You have that many deaths? Fuck.
Past week, like over couple of thousand people died.
Deaths from the virus?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really?
We had, and like with our infection rate now, it's higher than the beginning. So we've got like 70,000 cases a day.
Really? That's a lot.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Now I understand why they locked down. Wow, that's a lot.
They should have done it. They should have done it 6 weeks ago.
Is it like? Do you know if the death rate is mostly elderly people, like over 70 years old, or
45% of deaths at the moment are from like 60 plus.
60 plus.
So it is,
okay.
It is older people and a lot of care homes. Not good. So there's that. But
you mean 45%? So other 55% are below 60s.
Yeah, different age ranges though, but going kind of up in scale. Yeah. So obviously younger people, lower risk, and then as you go up at the age bracket, it gets higher. But highest single age bracket is above 65.
Really?
So like retirement age and above. But this second wave is affecting more young people now. So maybe they're not dying, but they are having more infection between younger people, because what's happening is they're being put together in schools and like university and things like that. And, young kids do what kids do, and they're all infected and they're all diseased. We must get rid of them all. Cast them out into the sea.
Oh.
But yeah, no. So it's tough because there are so many restrictions, and then there are people not listening to them. But also maybe the restrictions aren't strong enough. If like they're not. There's no like big punishments. It's just like, oh, go home, like that. No real fines or anything. Yeah. So it is what it is, really.
Yeah. We were talking about this before the live session began, but lockdown is sort of a taboo term in the United States. I don't think we've used the term lockdown to describe any of the actions that we've taken. A similarly taboo word is quarantine, and so instead they've coined other phrases like there are stay-at-home orders, you shelter in place, you self-isolate. But it's not, nobody says lockdown because that maybe would spur panic or something. I don't know. But I also wondered, what lockdown meant for different people, because I think some governments, either provincial governments, state governments, national governments around the world have taken it, varying degrees of like sincerity. And in the United States, we have all these levels of government, but really it seems, because of how political it's become, that it's mostly a national statement, and that the nature of how people are reacting to the coronavirus has been almost along party lines. Not entirely, but there's definitely a trend where you look at states that are mostly conservative and they also have the most relaxed rules in place regarding the coronavirus. I live in Texas. Texas is sort of the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. It's conservative in most of the state, and of course, if you look at like the election map, it breaks it down by county, and so the only counties that are voting or I would say identifying as liberal or as Democratic, are Dallas County, Harris County, which is Houston, and I can't remember what the county is for San Antonio, but just the three biggest. Oh, and I'm sorry, and Austin, Travis County.
Yeah.
And you know the population is so dense there that the vote is actually relatively close. But if you just look from a geographical standpoint, even in the suburbs like where I am outside of Dallas, the political stance is very conservative. And also, as a sort of a correlation, the way that people behave about coronavirus is tied to that. You know, I actually I had the opportunity to play my first live gig less than a month ago, and
nice.
it was outdoor. We were up on stage. I was kind of nervous because, you know, even though I've been out in public, to be in a place that's supposed to draw a crowd seemed, you know, sort of counterintuitive. And we, you know, fortunately were far removed from the audience, and it was not so dense. The gig itself was way out of town, kind of in the middle of nowhere. But the reason I bring it up is because there were a few members within our band who were very high risk. You know, our drummer was like in his 80s, and had underlying health conditions, and his wife didn't want him to perform. Yeah, he's a professional musician, like that's his income. So he's like, well, I kind of have to, and so the stipulation he said at the beginning, like to the band via email, was, you know, I'm going to keep my distance from you. Don't take it personally. This is for my safety. I ask that everyone, you know, wear face masks when you can. Obviously, for people who are playing, you know, wind instruments, we have to take them out, the face mask off to play.
Yeah.
But it was just, you know, like we play, and then in between songs, the face mask goes back on. And we were spread out on stage so that we weren't really close anyway. But the guy who was contracted to run the sound for the stage was up on stage setting up the microphones, and the drummer saw him come up on stage, and he wasn't wearing a face mask, and so he shouted to him and said, "Hey man, you know, you need to wear a face mask if you're going to be on stage." And the guy's response to this was, "I refuse. I will not wear a face mask." And so then the drummer's response was, "Well, then you need to stay away from me." And so then they worked it out basically where whenever each time the sound guy had to be on stage, which fortunately was not during our performing, the drummer went and stayed in his car while he was up on stage, because he would, it was just the only way to
avoid
resolve the situation without a fight, you know, basically. But it's something that's not an isolated incident. That's happening all over the place around where I live. Plenty of people are arguing. Yeah, my wife, who's a Starbucks store manager, she is allowed to, thanks to, I don't know if it's government rules. I think it's actually Starbucks policy. She can refuse service and make people leave the store if they're not wearing a face mask.
Really?
And she doesn't immediately get angry and go on a crusade. But what they've found works more with our culture around here is, instead of saying, you know, you need to do this, instead she just says, "Oh, here's a face mask," you know, because they have disposable face masks, and so it's easier. Yeah, it invokes less anger when you say, "Here's a face mask for you to wear," as opposed to saying, you know, "Where's your face mask? You need to leave." But it's still, even after all this time, after all of these studies have been conducted, and all of the information, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty abundantly clear as to the nature of how the virus spreads, and like the best measures for reducing the spread. Like, all of that information, I think, is plain as day, but people still refuse to accept it on a large scale, really. So
But that guy say like, I refuse.
I refuse. Yeah, yeah.
That's fucked up. But
It is. It really is.
I refuse.
America's famous for it at the moment. I think looking at what we think of people in Japan as being very hygienic, very community minded. I think a lot of people in Australia would like to be like that, but we know we're not as crazy as Americans. This is so famous in Australia. It's like, do you see these people starting fights because of wearing masks and things? There are a few Australians who've tried to copy the American style.
Copy the American style.
Yeah, to be American, to refuse hygiene, to be like a total cowboy. Some people like to do that in Australia, but it's seen as quite an American thing. And it's interesting what Olivia was saying about the French-speaking side. Because I was talking to my a tea ceremony teacher yesterday about France and how it's spreading in France, and there's a culture of kissing, but there's also, in the nicest way, a tradition of defying authority, maybe in France. Does that happen in Canada too?
Absolutely. Like, I'm French Canadian. My family is French Canadian. Like, my entire family is like white French Canadian. We can date back, at least on my mom's side. We came from like the very first French people who came to Canada 400 years ago. And I see it in my mom. My dad, he's a little more chill, but my mom for sure, like, she's like a bulldog. If you pull the wrong string, she's not gonna let you go. And I'm like,
and the kissing, like,
yeah, well, I mean,
not doing it.
It's more like we kiss on the cheek. Like, we don't kiss on the lips. Like, if I kiss my uncle or my aunts on the lips, it's kind of awkward. But like, we like kind of like weird kiss on the side, kind of a thing, while we give hugs. But I also, like, there's a lot more like close contact. But the very interesting thing too is like, well, there's probably also a lot more elderly people also out east. Like, in Quebec has the most death rate, probably because they have more elderly people. Like, you look at like my family, I'm the youngest in my family because my parents are the youngest in their families, and also families are huge. Like, it was traditionally, like, even as early as my grandmother's days, you would typically have like 10 to 15 children in one household. Yeah, it's a long story, but you would typically have long, like, big families. So I'm not surprised that there's a lot more, like, people who are at a certain age, like usually 60 years older. So I feel like that's why it's more worrisome, but also that too, like, people are a little bit more defiant. Like, you go to Quebec, and I feel like people tend to want to find ways to argue for no reason, which is pretty French to me. I have a French person, like, a French friend, where his grandmother, at least, are like, they came from Europe. Like, that's the generation that they came to Canada, and he can agree on that as far as I'm concerned. He could back me up on this, but yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why I think the eastern part of Canada is more affected, because it's also more francophone. Francophone means French-speaking people. So yeah, and I mean,
do you still hug?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like,
in Australia, like, at the moment, we're pretty much like not as big on hugging as Europeans generally, but we've stopped.
Oh, even now. Still.
Basically, yeah. But your mainstream Australian people, even though we don't have a big problem, we've all gotten used to not hugging and not shaking hands.
Yeah,
really.
Point, yeah.
But it's not as a big a thing for us as for European people, or if some people in Australia are from a French family or an Italian family, it's a much more difficult habit to break.
Yeah, no problem in Japan so far.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed.
To be honest,
nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Then
But
only at the business scene, like business scene, people shake hands like when you meet for the first time, if it's business. But otherwise, no change, as you know. Like, we don't touch people.
So has that stopped in Japan, shaking hands for
Hey,
business? In business people
like
in
nice
Japan?
to meet you. Like when
Yeah,
you meet for the first time, you do the business card usually.
yeah, yeah.
But when it's more at the frank situation, like parties and stuff, then you shake hands and try to be closer. Huh?
Since Corona, has the
Mm.
government said stop shaking hands?
Yeah, well, government never really says anything for the like what to do or what not to do, but people automatically stop here, like they read the atmosphere and maybe this is not the time we shake hands, and it's unspoken, all these rules, people sense it and they just do it.
Because now
Like,
in Australia for the election,
mm,
like there's so many politicians meeting in front of cameras. So you have to be very careful when you are in the media to set the right example. And there's no handshaking, it's only elbow touch.
yeah, that one I've seen, like that's so strange. No.
If a politician is in the newspaper or on the news like shaking hands in Australia now, everyone will be like, oh, why?
That's exactly the same in England.
Is this thing happening all in like all your countries, like Canada, England, Australia, America, all same elbow thing?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So, like, I think, same with England, Australia. So obviously, because we're closer to Europe, we pick up on more of the close contact kind of stuff. Not so much as like French style kissing on the cheek or whatever. But generally, yeah, you can be. There's a lot of, I think it's a lot to do with men when you like, oh yeah, tap someone on the shoulders. Oh, good job. Oh, it's so manly. Sort of thing. That kind of stuff like that. I think that's been hard for a lot of people. But like for me, I'm like, great.
Don't touch people.
Yeah. But it's very much the same. I think it's been very difficult for people to get used to. And then when we do see it happen, like, on the news or something. So if someone's being interviewed on the news, they have a microphone on like a stick and they hold it like this far away. And they're really careful to demonstrate that they're following the rules.
Oh, okay.
And then when you do see people that are like, oh, it's too close. Oh no, what are you doing on live TV? And like that. So everyone has a bit of fun. But also because there's no new TV programs or movies being made, I've noticed amongst my friends as well, watching things like Netflix and everything, where you see people making contact and you see everyone else kind of go, oh no. It's because we're so trained to do it now. But you're like, oh, the touching. Oh wait, this was filmed 30 years ago.
That's hilarious.
I know exactly what you mean there. I've been watching some shows with my wife, and I can't even focus on the story because all I can think about is like they're talking so close to each other, like they're really close. They're not socially distant. Like this is dangerous, and then this was filmed in like 2007.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the same thing now since going to Japan and going to tea ceremony class and being in Japanese homes in Brisbane. When I watch TV and when Western people wear shoes inside, but on the carpet. People wearing shoes. I'm watching TV. I'm like, get off the carpet. Oh, you do that.
I can't.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm Canadian, okay? When it's -30 winter and you have snow, please don't.
I think that's funny, isn't it? I think that's something, with where I live. Today it's, I'm sorry, I'm not good at the Celsius conversion. It's, I think today it's going to be a high of like maybe like 18 or 20 degrees Celsius, yeah. and it's
Breeze.
it's sunny. It's like I'm wearing shorts, you know. But it's also like pretty dry as well, so you're usually not like tracking much into the house. And some of my friends, it's funny because it's with as culturally diverse as the United States is, in terms of like immigration from all around the world over countless generations. It's really from one household to the next, and the more culturally diverse your friends are, the more keen you are on picking up those things. So some of my friends' houses, we take our shoes off at the door. Others, we don't think about it. We're talking about like hugging versus handshakes and the kissing on the cheek. I don't have any friends here who kiss on the cheek, but like there have been a lot of friends who are like, I really want to hug my friends, and like I really want to like. You don't shake hands with friends here. It's not, that's kind of like a little too formal, but like a fist bump or something like that, and it's definitely slackened. It's people have eased up quite a lot here, and so like I've hugged like some of my family. When my mom's sister was in town, we hugged, and like we do this whole like, okay, like prepare for it, like turn your head away and like hold your breath. You're not like breathing in each other's face.
But Mark, a fist bump, that's very American. We don't do that. We don't have to worry about a fist bump.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think that fist bumping became a thing. I can't remember why, but in times when like if the flu was running rampant or something, that fist bumping became popularized. I think it was a thing in some parts of the culture, but then when like President Obama would like fist bump on like national television, then suddenly everyone was like, oh, that's like an accepted standard greeting. Like,
oh, it's cool.
President
now.
is doing it, so we can do it. Speaking of. Oh, yeah, I'll just say real quickly, speaking of the president and the people who are on live television, and the examples they're setting, that's something that's been really interesting over the campaigning process, watching how diligent each side is about showing the right example. And so, all of the political ads here for the Democratic candidates, they're all wearing face masks in their political ads. But on the Republican ads, many of them aren't, and like some even specifically like defame or like discredit like anyone who talks about using a face mask, and that's kind of I think one of the reasons why I pulled up the numbers. One of the reasons why the U.S. is having such a big problem with the coronavirus is because of the example that's being set. And as it stands right now, I think the United States has something like it's number one in terms of most confirmed cases, like it's like 9 million maybe or something like that.
9 million, really?
I think so. Not it's like not current like at this moment, but over the course of time. And like looking at the just to give you an example of like where I am specifically, Dallas County. So Dallas County, I think, is home to maybe I don't know, 5 million people, like the county itself. Total. And we just broke yesterday 100,000 cases just in that county alone. So not in the state of Texas, but just the one county. And then yesterday, Dallas County, I'm pointing to the south, by the way, so if it doesn't make any sense from where you are, but just south of where I am, Dallas County had 1,269 cases yesterday alone. Tarrant County, which is Fort Worth, 952 cases yesterday. The county that I live in is Collin County. We had 221 cases. Denton County, which is just north of us, had 214 cases. All of this is just in a single day.
Oh,
and
great.
So, yeah, and so it's something that we are not in as close quarters as a lot of other places. So like, if you go to like Manhattan or I mean, I think most other major cities around the world have much higher population density than what we have here in Texas. And it's not I live in like a commuter city, so there most people would be traveling for work, but public transportation here is garbage. Like we don't have a subway system, we don't have a train system. We kind of have we have an electric rail, but it kind of goes like on a line. It's not like it's not a web or a network. The buses,
not like Tokyo.
Yeah, not like Tokyo. The buses are. We have a bus system, but it's not really widely used. I think like per household. I'm just making this number up, but I based on just what I observe, the per household like car ownership number has to be like at least 2. Like it's like 2 to 3 cars per household on average. And everyone drives everywhere. You'd think because of that there would be less exposure.
Yeah.
But it's apparently not the case, and I think it's just sheer negligence and Olivia said like rebellion. I don't think it's not. I don't know if it's like the rebellion for rebellion's sake, like you would have maybe in like a French culture, but I think it's kind of like don't tell us what to do. We want our freedom, and like there's freedom. Yeah, that's the key word there, I guess. But
that sounds more American. Like you want more like freedom. Like you don't want people to tell you what to do. You're not so much like trying to find an argument for argument's sake. That's more French.
Yeah, like freedom.
English, yeah.
Freedom and being selfish is a fine line. We don't know the line of that.
Freedom fries. Remember that instead of French fries?
I don't know where that came from, but it sounds like, I don't know.
I think that was because maybe France, wasn't it after 9/11 that France wasn't going to join the coalition of the willing? And then it was like, oh, we're not going to call them French fries anymore. We hate France. It's freedom fries.
What?
Yeah, that sounds accurate. I don't know.
It was something from the Bush Mark II days. It was from the second Bush days, I think.
Freedom fries. That sounds right.
Freedom fries, not French fries. They didn't like the French at that time.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's like you eat this and you can be free. Why? No. But I don't know, like even like in Japan, now people wear masks. So in Japan, total cases now so far until today is about 100,000 in total. Our population is what? 130 million, and total cases 100,000, deaths 1,800 they say, but this like it's all from the news, and I don't know if that information is true or not, because we don't test. Like I tried to test myself a few months ago because I had a plan to visit Nagasaki Prefecture to see the location for my family to move in, and to travel from Tokyo to other prefectures. Like I still care about the virus and stuff. Like I don't care about myself, but I don't want to bring any problems to my relatives' prefecture and other people. So I rang the hospital and all these things, houses, like health care center, saying, can I take a COVID-19 test? And they're like, do you have any symptoms? I'm like, I don't have any symptoms, but I need to test because I'm going to travel. And if you don't have any symptoms, you can't get any tests. I'm like, but I want to get a test. And they're like, you can't. It's only for the people who have symptoms, but not only people who have symptoms, but having symptoms, also go to see doctor, get prescription. Then finally you can go to the healthcare center. Then if they allow you, you can get a test. So it's like the numbers they say on the TV and news, it's like What's that? You know?
That sounds very Japanese.
I know, right? This country, I'm like, what?
You said
That's
that you
right.
can do a self-test. You can test
You can, yeah, if you get a kit now,
Wow.
like, but
in
Like that.
Australia, they scratch your brain. They put this crazy
scratch your
like,
brain.
right into your brain. It feels like
Scratch
they.
your brain.
Oh, fact check. Freedom Fries was 2003. That was because France didn't want to support invading Iraq. By the way.
I looked it up too, actually. Yeah.
Freedom fries.
But you're
Yeah,
trying to be
definitely.
responsible, Noah. It sounds like it's difficult.
Huh?
It's difficult to be responsible. You wanted to do the right thing.
Yeah, so I just traveled anyway.
You didn't have. Oh, I will have to go in a minute, but I just wanted to say.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. And you're just speaking of your spirit of being so responsible and community minded. I remembered when I was growing up in Australia, I had Chinese friends and we used to take the shoes off to go in their house. And I was like, oh, that's cool. No one else did it. But that was fine. That was normal. But for the average kind of white people living in Australia, to ask someone to take their shoes off to come inside in the past, it was almost like an insult. Like to say, oh, you think you're so good. You want me to take my shoes off in your house? Like, oh, am I dirty? Like this kind of almost like that. But I feel like that's changing over time. And then people wearing medical masks in Australia, usually only people who have cancer treatment or someone very close to someone who has cancer treatment. But whenever you would usually see someone with a mask, you think, oh no, someone's dying or they're really sick. And it's kind of frightening. But now I know so many people who have shoes off inside, and now more people are wearing masks. So I think that maybe one small positive in Australia since Corona is that people are getting used to these hygiene and community-minded things that are natural in places like Japan.
Yeah, in Japan is like that, but also it's community-minded. But at the same time, many people do so because they worry about what other people think about themselves. So not only because they care about other people, that too, but at the same time, there's this big, what if people think about me like this and that? Like they get paranoid, so they just go with same lane with other people. But thank you, Bertie.
Thanks, and Joe says hi.
Thanks, Bertie. See you later.
It's a cat. See you later.
Bye.
Hi. Look at his teeth. They're so cute. He's all cute.
Great.
See ya. Yeah, because Australia now is what 1 a.m. maybe after midnight.
In some part of Australia, yeah. I don't know. It's so big.
Yeah, because now Japan is midnight and Canada is 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And England
3 p.m.
3 p.m. and Texas
9
America
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Oh, this time difference.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. All over the place, isn't it?
Thank you for gathering tonight. This is many, like, I don't know how people who are watching think about the time difference, but we needed to arrange like, this time, what about this time, and England will be this time and America will be that. That's too early for Canada and all this.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. So obviously this is the first winter back for me in the UK.
After Japan.
And I obviously closed. I'm in my parents' house at the moment. I closed the curtains behind me, but the sun. It's 3 p.m. and the sun is already setting. Like,
really?
Yeah, because they're in like northern hemisphere, and England's like kind of the same level as like Scandinavia. No, Scandinavia's a bit further north, but it's fairly far north. So this time of year, past Halloween, sort of middle of October, It gets dark really quickly. It gets light at around 9 a.m. and gets dark around 4
that's
p.m.
why like many people say England is dark in winter.
Oh, that too.
That's why.
It's gloomy.
That's why.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful at the moment, though. One of the really nice things, one of the few nice things about this coronavirus stuff is people are going outside and enjoying being outside more, because a lot of people are in places that like apartments and things where they don't have.
You are 3 p.m. You are not sleepy. Come on.
I've been busy all week. I've had this is my day off. So a lot of people don't have gardens and things. So when they did get the opportunity to go out, it's really nice to see people going out for walks and enjoying nature and stuff. So there's some nice things. And this autumn in the UK was quite beautiful. We had a really nice big cold period, and all the trees changed colour like.
Nice.
Yeah.
But now
it's very nice this year.
But now it's the current lockdown. Can you go out freely? Like I know the shops are closed, but if you just want to go for a walk.
I'll just pull up the lockdown guidelines.
Guidelines.
Yeah, because they're very vague. So you type in lockdown guidelines, and the internet recognises that obviously I'm in the UK.
Yeah.
So it brings up all the major cities in the UK, and they all have different lockdown guidelines. Instead of one unit, it's different all across the country. So let's just say lockdown guidelines, Bristol. Restrictions, Bristol Post. So non-essential retail shops, meaning basically anything other than like medicine or whatever, all closed. But schools, colleges, and universities still open, no restrictions. New coronavirus tier. So we have levels of coronavirus restrictions. We have tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. But now they've introduced 1+.
1+, what's that?
I don't know. Due to rising cases in recent weeks and warn the city, new coronavirus tier. You're going just down this rabbit hole now.
Yeah.
Where is it? Near you, the 1+, there's a new tier, targeted actions. So we, in the UK at least, we have this program called Test and Trace, which basically what you do is whenever you go in a restaurant or a cafe or you move, change locations, they have like a QR code that you scan, and it updates you. So when there is a new infection and you say, okay, I've been infected and I want to say, I would think I was infected here, or this is where I've been today, they can track you. So
really?
like South Korea did, but without people. They did that just automatic, no permission or anything. It was just like, nope.
Yeah.
The thing about Test and Trace in England is it's not being run in the public interest. It's being run for private interest. So there's a company, which is a private company associated with the government, which is has been given £12 billion, which is about $20 billion, probably several trillion yen.
A lot.
And they've been given 12 to develop an app. And that app doesn't work. So it has like a 60% failure rate of connecting everything. Like it is just, and that is so much money, and they're still trying to make it work. So
that's awful.
Oh God.
So the lockdown rules at the moment is if you're infected and you refuse to self-isolate, you could have a fine of up to £10,000.
That's a lot too.
Yeah, it's if you do not listen to the police for anything, or you think you can get between 1,000 and 10,000, and stay 2 meters apart. You can exercise outside. You can do anything for medicine. You can do shopping or like food. You can visit vulnerable people, so like older people. minimize time spent outside, which is all the stuff above that is like, don't do it unless you have to.
Okay.
Must not meet indoors in a house or in a building with anyone outside of your family.
Oh, that's for lockdown. Wow.
Yeah. But you cannot bring someone back. You cannot meet in anyone else's back garden, even if it's outside. Like, so for example, when at the beginning of lockdown here, we were doing the community I live in, we're out in the countryside, so it's all everyone knows each other and everyone's very friendly. So we all meet. In lockdown, we all met over the fence, so over the garden wall, and had like drinks on a Friday afternoon. It's so English. I'm really sorry. So if we wanted to go to the next door's garden to have drinks or whatever, even if we were very far apart, we couldn't do that. And if a neighbour called in and said they're from different houses, they're meeting, the police would come and then we would get in trouble.
That's full on, man. That's like like April, May time? I don't know, when all the rest of the world was doing the same kind of. But back to the lockdown situation again. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy for it, because what it means is it'll deal with the problem. But the point is there are the fact that schools are open and the fact that universities are open, people can move and mix freely, and all the hundreds of people that work in schools and universities can all mix together as well. And it's got to be complete shutdown, but they're just like, no, you can't do it. Oh no, the economy. Like, you can't have the economy if everyone's dead.
Economy.
So it's crazy. So every time you tell the news, it's like the economy's doing worse. Yeah. Can you eat that? Yeah.
That's the same approach I think that the United States has taken in terms of like defending that they refer to it as like reopening the country, reopening the state, and the people who are in favor of, you know, getting back to business as usual, their argument is, well, you know, we need to avoid like a major recession or depression, and the only way to do so is to, you know, start opening back up. And then, you know, early on, it was frustrating in retrospect, because early on, with the idea of the initial shutdown, because we even had, before much of the data were in, the country did kind of sort of shut down. Businesses closed, restaurants closed, gyms closed, bars closed. Like pretty quickly, restaurants started opening back up for carry out only or for delivery.
Yeah.
But you couldn't dine in, you couldn't sit on a patio. And then eventually, like, bars reopened at reduced capacity, and gyms, like fitness centers, reopened at reduced capacity. And it got to the point over the summer where it was almost back at full capacity, I think, on a lot of these places. And now people are saying like, oh, it's the second wave, and then other people are saying, no, we haven't even left the first wave here in the United States. Like, it never stopped. We just like pretended like it stopped. And I don't know what their plans are going to be going forward. I think it's going to depend on who ends up winning the presidency. But like even right now, I'm getting on a plane later today, actually, to visit my wife's family in Arizona. And so, you know, we've got like our, you know, hand sanitizer and face masks and gloves, and, you know, we've been not completely self-isolating, but, you know, not going out more than we need to. And just out of respect for anyone else who we're traveling with. And this will be my first time back on a plane. My wife went to her bridal shower back in Arizona in August, and my mom flew to visit her family in St. Louis a couple months ago as well. So like it's back. I don't want to say it's back to normal, but there are things that really seem remarkably lackadaisical, like remarkably calm or flexible. You can dine indoors at restaurants here, so like it's not just patio seating only. You can sit inside the restaurant. Gyms are still open, and hair salons and fill like whatever it is, it's all reopened. I think bars maybe have reduced capacity, but they haven't closed. I pulled up an article. It's probably not a story that would make it far outside of out of the state of Texas, but I thought it was interesting to bring up. Texas, as I mentioned earlier, has a pretty conservative stance on things, and so the Texas government is really pushing an aggressive reopening approach. Like, reopen businesses, let's stimulate this economy, and so on and so forth. Well, El Paso, Texas, which is as far west as you can get. It's on the border to Mexico. So El Paso, Texas is right across the border from Juarez, Mexico. Recently had an alarming surge in cases, like a rate higher than anyone else has seen in most of the country. And so the county judge in El Paso County issued a shutdown for El Paso County, and then the state government in response threatened to come in, bring in the National Guard and forcibly reopen the county because they weren't following state protocol, which was we're reopening.
Oh.
And
what we're doing.
Yeah, and so it says this was today. A Texas district judge upheld an order shutting down the business. So basically, this is saying in the state court, the county's decision to shut down has been supported. Basically saying, you can't tell them to reopen. Thankfully, but it had to go. It had to go to court. It had to be. There was a very real chance that they were going to say, that the response was going to be, we don't care that you're seeing so many new cases. You're not allowed to shut down.
Yeah.
That just conjures up the image of people. It's well, you got to stay open. Okay, fine. They go into people's houses. It's like, you got to spend your money quickly. Get the coffee. Enjoy it. Savor that coffee. Savor it, boy. You better be drinking that coffee, good boy. Savor it.
It seems pretty accurate.
That's funny.
That's yeah. Oh,
that's great. But thank you, everyone. I think I will just stop the live. Well, I just keep the room. We just chat a little. But thank you for watching, everyone. I don't know how many people are watching, but if you couldn't watch the live, please watch the archive. We will keep it on Global Community Byron Bay or Cafe Byron Bay, maybe YouTube channel. I don't remember which name I used for. But
I think it's the Global Community, but who knows? It's a mystery. It's your English.
But maybe we will see you guys another time. And thank you again for watching tonight. We will leave the live. Bye bye.
Thank you.